Hey, what is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Now, Gran Turismo 7 update 1.25 has arrived, and alongside it is a brand new cafe menu book. This is the Sports Car Masters Championship. In my opinion, it's a great championship because we do have an excuse to use some of those classic cars, most of which have been collecting dust for a long time. So, you know, any excuse to get these out of the garage is a good excuse in my opinion. So this menu book, just a few little details in terms of the tracks you're going to be visiting. In my opinion, these are three of the better tracks within the game, which were severely lacking events in my opinion. And it's going to be, as you can see here, race 1 at Goodwood. Obviously a legendary track in terms of classic car racing. Then we have the Nordschleife layout of the Nurburgring, which is obviously one of the most legendary, if not the most legendary track in the entire world. Then we have Spa as well, which again is one of the best tracks in the world in my opinion. I believe you're using cars from, I want to say 1986. It was something around then in terms of the limit for the car years. In terms of PP, you're going to be using up to 580. So I took the brand new Maserati Marek, the SS version, put a few little upgrades on it, mostly in terms of sort of tyres and suspension and stuff, just to give it that grip, and just kind of put it just under the 580 limit, set the game to normal difficulty, and away I went to complete all these events. As you can see, they're fairly straightforward. There's nothing majorly dynamic about them. They're not long events, sadly, but then again, you wouldn't really assume them to be when you're kind of just throwing around classic kind of road cars. But in terms of the kind of races that we're putting, it almost gives off the feeling that it's more of a showcase race than it is an actual race. Now, you won't find yourself in any insane battles or anything, because obviously Gran Turismo likes to set the races out where you're essentially chasing down, you know, 19 other cars or whatever for a whole race and then you're done. But it really does kind of just give off the vibe that this is more of a showcase race to just show off the pretty models of the classic cars, which in my opinion I don't really mind for this kind of style of racing. Obviously, you know, it's always awesome to see all these classic cars at once on a single track. However, it does feel, you know, very much like a bit of a chase event, and then it's just kind of just showing off the pretty models for these, in my honest opinion, stunning motors. So yeah, it's kind of doesn't feel very much in, you know, kind of race like, but it is a, you know, admittedly very pretty event because you're seeing some of the coolest cars within the game, especially ones that are, you know, very much underrepresented. So as you can see here, we're around about lap 3 at this point, and we are still chasing down the front two cars, one of which is a Ferrari, and then the second, which is essentially leading the event, is the Lamborghini Miura. We do not have the speed advantage, admittedly. We obviously haven't upgraded much in terms of the engine power for this Maserati. We've essentially just made it as grippy as possible, which isn't always the biggest help when you're at somewhere like Goodwood, where essentially there's not too many sort of low speed corners. However, we are going to quite easily manage to get on the back of the Lamborghini. Yes, it may kind of out drag us in a straight line, but we're going to have no problems overtaking the AI. And again, like I said, with it feeling more like a showcase race, you just feel like that, you know, it kind of shows off just how, you know, sort of poor the AI is in this game, because no matter what difficulty you put them on, I really don't see many people having trouble completing all these events. As you can see, we've took the lead, and essentially at this point we're not going to have to worry about the AI. We're just going to complete a couple more laps, and this will be this race done. I believe it was a 5-lap event, this one, and on lap 3 we've essentially took the lead. I'm going to take a little bump off the AI, but now essentially we're just going to, you know, pull away and not have to worry too much about the AI at all, really. So we're going to round the final few corners. As you can see, we're coming up to one of the other new cars from the update, the Skyline GTR 2000. Again, another really awesome car. However, we're going to manage to lap it within 5 laps in the Maserati. So we're going to round up the last few corners, and that's going to be race 1 over and done with. Fairly straightforward. This one actually felt like probably one of the, I guess, shorter events of the bunch. Yeah, it wasn't challenge at all. So on to race 2, we're going to hit up the Nordschleife layout of the Nurburgring. It's a single lap event, this one. Again, it's going to be quite an easy event. I found this probably the easiest of the bunch, and that's mainly because we've obviously got the added grip of race tyres, suspension obviously updated, and it just made the the tight sections much easier, to the point where we was able to knock seconds off within corners. So we're going to quite easily chase the pack down here, and you're going to see the advantage we've got obviously with the changes that we have made to this car. Like I said, we haven't got the speed advantage, so in terms of the straights we weren't kind of making up much time there, but around the corners we were just absolutely flying. This one again has a different lead car, believe it or not. I believe the Ferrari's still kind of P2, but we actually have the Lamborghini Countach leading the way for this race. Again, same format as usual. You're essentially just chasing them down, looking at all the pretty cars on your way past. Not like you're really going to be massively concentrating on them. There'll probably be a few standout cars that may catch your attention as you kind of fly past them over 100 miles an hour, and just give them a nice little wave and appreciate the design of the cars. But again, look, in terms of this menu book, yes, it's not very racy. It's not really competitive or anything like that, but it is genuinely one of the better looking menu books, and that's just because of the cars. Honestly, this really does feel like, I guess, what Gran Turismo were going for, which is a love letter to cars from many years over the years, whether it be new, old, or anything like that. And this really does feel like a bit of a love letter to those cars that a lot of people may have forgotten. These are cars that are in the game, which most people buy because they want to collect all the cars, and then they never really use. So, look, at the end of the day, the excuse to whip these cars out and actually drive them properly and enjoy them is it's just a good excuse at the end of the day. That is my personal opinion. I know a lot of people will probably flock to this and being like, oh, look, another boring cafe menu. Where's the Group 1? Where's the Group 2? And, I get that. There is also a Group 1 event that has been added, which I will be covering today, as well as the new Silvia one, which I felt was a bit of an oddball, considering we got the Silvia Cafe menu only a few weeks back with the September update. So yeah, kind of weird. I will be covering both of them. I haven't done them yet, so I cannot give you my opinion on if they're kind of worth your while once you've kind of done them. But in terms of this cafe menu, obviously, which we're focusing on currently, I did have fun. I enjoyed it for what it was. It's nothing overly standout, apart from like the cars themselves. They seem to be the main focus, and I'm all for it. Using these classic cars, I could see potential in pretty much using a bunch of your classics, which you may have not used now. Obviously, it feels much more, I guess, balanced in terms of sort of showing those cars off. So as you can see, we've already took the lead, and we're going to round up a few of the last corners coming off that big long straight. Not hitting the most ridiculous speeds, but we're still able to throw the car around into the last few corners, go into the right hander. Quite a tight one here. We're not going to get it too perfect, but we are going to get it good enough that we're going to survive it, and we're going to cross the line to finish race 2 at the Nordschleife. It really does feel good to have another event here. Now on to the final race of the bunch, and probably the one I actually found the most challenging. I mean, not like it was really a challenge anyway, but in terms of actually getting to the front, this is the one that felt like it took the longest, and that's mainly because of this big long straight that you do have. Obviously it's kind of broken up, and it's because it's not a single full straight, but again, like I have mentioned, this car is not built for top speed at all, so it was much more of a struggle in comparison to the likes of the Nordschleife, which in my opinion was the easiest one to get to the front, because once I was there I was just able to kind of take advantage of the grip through like the carousel and such, to the point where I had an absolutely ridiculous lead by the end. This one, not so much. It was a case of the leader in the Lamborghini was just pulling and pulling and pulling, as well as the Ferrari as well, which you will probably see in this clip where I'm struggling to get myself back onto the rear end of the Ferrari. An enjoyable event, and any excuse to drive Spa is a good excuse in my opinion. I absolutely love this track. Again, it's a track that's absolutely legendary around the world. Everybody pretty much knows Spa, but again, it just does not feel like it has enough events really catering towards it. It feels okay, but it does kind of feel a bit strange. I wish we kind of got the really classic layout to use these cars on. Obviously, if you'll remember, some certain games. I don't know. I'm not going to mention them, but they do feature the really old layout of Spa, which I feel like if they kind of gave it that classic look, put hay bales and all that good stuff in, I feel like it really would have suited this event. But it does always feel kind of a bit odd driving, classic cars in a modern layout of Spa, or modern looking Spa. But again, look, it's Spa. It's a great track. You will find yourself having fun here, just because the track is just so good to drive, in my opinion. Again, like I said, it was probably the most challenging of the bunch, and that's because obviously I've not built this car for speed. In fact, I don't think most people will build these cars for speed. I think a lot of people will be trying to sort of, I guess, adjust the suspensions and the gearing to give yourself that extra grip, because obviously some of these classic cars are very much uncontrollable beasts. Not as bad as they were when the game first released, but they are still prone to the odd snap. I did not honestly have that problem in the Maserati, even when testing it in its standard form as well. I found it to be probably one of the more enjoyable cars I've probably driven in this game. There was just something really strange about it, and it quite caught me off guard. I know you kind of see people absolutely slating them for putting more classics in, but in my opinion, the Marek is certainly a worthy addition to the game. It's such an underappreciated car, and you don't really see it really anywhere. I cannot recall a time where I've actually seen it in at least in terms of console racing, in a console racing game. So it was genuinely exciting to see it in the game, and I didn't expect much from it. But for the price point and the way the car actually does drive when you get into it, it's probably one of the better purchases I've made within Gran Turismo 7. I think it comes in at about 70k, and then obviously I had the excuse of this menu book to jump in it, fiddle around with the suspension and the handling, and give it a proper good driving. So I hopefully can get a few builds done with this car. Because the whole time I was actually finding myself enjoying driving the game, which in my opinion has never been a kind of issue for Gran Turismo 7. I feel like the driving's absolutely awesome. It always feels great. There's a decent amount of weight to the cars without it being, I guess, overly realistic. So it's at the point where you can, even if you want, drive these cars on controller. You don't have to have a full rig or set up. And especially at the minute, while I'm kind of waiting for my new wheel, since my wheel decided to break on me after 4 years, being able to actually drive these cars and enjoy them on controller is a definite plus point. So I mean, that's never been a problem for GT7. So as you can see, we've finally took the lead after that big long straight. We're going to round up the last few corners, and we're going to finally finish off this menu book. Like I said, it does feel more like a showcase, but it was enjoyable for what it was, and that's going to be it. That's going to be all of them completed, and for completing them all, we actually got a bit of a weird reward. So we got a 4-star roulette ticket. So let's go and see which prize we are going to get, and we are going to end up with the Honda Civic, which I believe I have like 3 or 4 of at this point. So it is what it is. End of the day, it's another free car. I'll probably just delete it since it's essentially a duplicate. But that's going to be it. That's going to be my coverage of the brand new menu book. Thank you so much for watching. I will be continuing to cover this update throughout the day. Obviously, I've already got a bunch of sort of gameplay showcase videos out on the channel. I'll have my car reviews over the next few days, and that's going to be it. I'll catch you all in the next one. Take care, guys. Peace.